like to call to order the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority Board of Directors meeting for November 14th, 2017. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Renee Plain.
Present.
Jesse Dahme.
Present.
Jonathan Bulware.
Present.
Karen Aboud.
Present.
And Sandra Nagel. We have a quorum.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Any public comment? No, seeing none, we'll move on. For possible action, approval of minutes from the October 8th, 2017 fiscal year, October 8th, 2017 fiscal year 2018 CTA board meeting.
I move to approve the minutes of the October 9th, 2017 CTA board meeting as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Possible action, adoption of agenda. Does anyone see any reason why we will change the agenda? No? Okay, we will accept the agenda as printed. Possible action to accept the adjusted CTA fiscal year 2018 budget report.
So on the budget report, I'm just going to go really fast because we got people waiting for us. This is reporting through September, which is accounting period 3 for the year, fiscal year. We have $1,811,966 in expendable revenue, so we're at 25% of the accounting year. Our revenue is about 25% of the accounting year, so we're good there. And expenses, we are at $103,000 for services and supplies, and I forgot payroll. $129,000 for salaries and benefits. Do you guys have any questions on any of that? I mean, it's pretty cut and dry.
Sorry, we're used to...
Chris, which page were you saying 129,000? I don't see it.
We're not used to going this quick. Sorry. Give us a minute.
Sorry. Page 3 was for the salaries. It's $129,000 for the salaries and benefits.
The only payment I see here is the, I think the equipment lease, the printer probably, they charge us extra to start with. It's 43%. Everything else is below the 25%. So you want us to make a motion or?
The reason the printer lease part is that's the printer that we got rid of. So it's going to be bigger. We'll adjust that at the end of the year.
And on the insurance, is that paid, the bulk of it paid up front?
Yes.
Okay.
Comments or questions? All right, do a motion.
I move to approve the adjusted fiscal year 18 budget report as presented through September 2017.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Possible action to accept the ratification of the CTA Statement of P-Card Report for September 2017.
I'll go a little slower this time. So usually we do checks and P-cards, but we already went over September's last month. So I'm trying to get it so we're reporting all of September all the time. So you'll see next month we'll do October for P-cards, the budget and the checks. So we just have the P-cards for September for right now. because you guys already did September checks last month. On page 2 of 5, the only bigger of the charges we have is for Adventure Sports Magazine for $1,350. That's a half-page ad in 3 different issues. Kyle can kind of expand on that if you guys have any questions on that one. And Intuit for the $991 is our normal monthly for the mobile app. And we have a lot of travel expenses lined up there for the Interbike Conference, but nothing major. And then on page 4 of 5, down towards the bottom, there's a Reach Local Incorporated. That's $1,000. That's for digital marketing. That's another one. If you got any questions, Kyle can expand on that one. And everything else is pretty much cut and dry, but if you got any questions.
Do we typically buy all our printer supplies from Office Depot? Because before I've not seen that.
So usually if it's stuff that we need, like just the desktop printers, we get the ink from there.
Go ahead, Nick. Any other questions, comments?
Okay. I move to approve the ratification of the CTA account activity statement of P-card charges for September of 2017.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Possible action to approve the fiscal year 2017 annual audit report.
Hello, how are you guys doing this evening? Or I guess it's not quite evening, it's still 4. You guys got the copies of the audits?
Yes.
Yep, great, okay. So one of the
Hold on,
items that's
would you
in
just
it-
introduce
Oh, I'm
yourself for the
sorry.
record?
I just wanted to jump in, I was
That's
all
all right.
excited. Beth Farley with Cohen & Company CPAs. One of the items that it was handed out is a letter. This is required board communication, and it just goes through kind of the standard language for difficulties that were encountered, which was none, or disagreements with management, corrected and uncorrected misstatements. We had some reclassification entries that were proposed relating to payroll and receivables, recorded room tax receivables of $18,000, removed a receivable for the buyout of a lease, and expensed some inventory of $8,200. We also request that management does representations, that they agree that they've provided us with the information as required as part of the audit. No other changes or unusual items that came up during the audit process. So that's that letter, pretty quick, tidy. And I'm going to start to go through the audit. If you guys have any questions, please just stop me at any time. Right after the table of contents is your independent auditor's report. This is what's called a clean or unmodified opinion. There's no modifications to that, to be in accordance with required accounting standards. Right after that is the management discussion analysis. This is from an internal perspective of the financial highlights and the overview of the financial statements. It describes the different types of financial statements that we'll look at as we go into those. On page 5 shows your condensed financial statements. Total assets of $1.7 million, deferred outflows of $159,000, and total liabilities of $1 million, deferred inflows of $46,000, so leaving your total net position of a positive $806,000. When we get into the actual financial statements, we'll kind of see how those are broken out and what type of assets they are. But really, the management discussion and analysis is just to kind of give you a brief overview. Somebody can read quickly what's going on in the financial statements. Page 8 starts the basic financial statements. This is your statement of net position. So what you're going to see on here, there is one change in the middle of the page, right under liabilities, under non-current, is the post-employment retirement obligation due to the change in the new policy for health insurance after retirement. So the way that that is calculated is it's a standard calculation as put out by GASB based upon dates of birth, dates of hire, expected retirement, expected life expectancies from the Social Security Administration, expected increase in health insurance, and a lot of those types of things. So this is calculated based off of very general expectations that that is a potential liability for the authority. So that was $289,000, and that was the first year that that will be part of this financial statement. So there'll be some notes as we go through too as well. What you see at the bottom there under the net position is you have capital assets. Part of it is for $74,000, restricted for bond payments of $698,000, and unrestricted undesignated of $34,000. Page 9 is your statement of activities. You had total expenses of $2 million, sales income of $12,000, operating grants of $31,000. General revenue includes room tax and interest income of $1.9 million, so you had a total decrease in your change in net position by $30,000. Both the two statements that we just reviewed are on the full accrual basis, so that's all of your liabilities, all of your assets. The next ones that we're going to look at are on the current resources, so anything that was paid or received basically within the first 60 days after the end of the fiscal year. So on page 10 is your balance sheet. You see the general fund, capital projects, V&T capital projects funds for your total there. This, you won't see those deferred inflows or outflows for pensions or for employment benefits. You have total assets of $1.6 million, liabilities of $1.2, and then your fund balance is $1.5, which is broken out into various different categories for non-spendable for inventory and prepaids of $2,000, restricted for the V&T and the capital projects of $572 and $125. You have a committed operating reserve of $150,000, designated or assigned for subsequent year expenditures based on the budget, $599,000, and unassigned of $61,000. At the bottom of this page is a reconciliation between this financial statement and the statement of net position on page 8. Page 11 is your statement and revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. So you guys had $1.9 million, not a lot of differences between the government-wide financial statements and the fund financial statements for your revenue. Most of the differences we see are in your expenditures. So you had expenditures of $1.7 million, and your change in fund balance is $267,000. Page 13 starts the notes of the financial statements. Note 1 just goes over your significant accounting policies, what the basic financial statements are made up of and government-wide, your budgetary accounting standards, capital assets, compensated absences. It kind of goes on to describe all those different areas. On page, just trying to see if there's nothing that's different in there. On page 17 has disclosures for cash and investments and transient lodging tax revenue, and the beginning of your capital assets describes, what those balances are made up of. Page 18 is your leases, commitments, and contingencies. Page 19 is long-term liabilities for accrued compensated absences. Page 19 starts your pensions disclosure. This is a long disclosure that has a lot of information as required by GASB that talks about the plan description, the benefits that were provided, contributions, goes through onto page 21, 22, and 23. 21 is your ending net pension liability of $537. Again, this is an estimate as provided by the PERS audit that's done on fiscal year 16. Moving forward to page 23 starts the new note for the post-employment retirement obligation. Talks about the plan description and the eligibility and the funding policy and what that annual cost and obligation is. And then on page 24, it does discuss some of those actuarial methods that are used and assumptions, looking at the 3% investment rate of return, mortality based on Social Security information. So read through all that and just let me know if you guys have any questions on that. After the notes, on page 26 is budget to actual. You guys had budgeted 1.6 million, and your actual revenue was 1.6 million, 1,617,000. So you're just slightly ahead in budget for revenue. On your expenses, you had budgeted just over 1.6 million in expenses. You only had 1,378,000. So you're under budget by about 260,000 for expenses. On page 27 is supplementary pension information. Shows the percentage of the total PERS pension amount that you guys are at, what was covered employees, contributions as a percentage. Page 28 is budget and actual for capital projects fund. You guys were under budget slightly for revenues and right on target for expenditures. On the page 29 is the V&T capital projects funds. You were slightly above budget amount for revenue, no expenditures there. Page 31 is your independent auditor's report in compliance with government auditing standards. There's no items that were noted, no compliance issues or internal control issues. Page 32 is the auditor's report in compliance with the Nevada revised statutes. We found no non-compliance in accordance with the NRS. And then the very last page is this auditor's comments that there was no compliance issues prior year or this year. It's a big financial statement. There's a lot of stuff, but I want to keep you guys here all night and read everything. So I try to go very quickly. Does anybody have any questions on the new information or anything else that you saw as you went through? Okay, yeah.
Any questions, comments to the motion?
I move to approve the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority's audit report for fiscal year 17.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. You guys have a great evening.
You all right? Possible action to recognize that the independent contractor agreement 2017-1013 for consultation and administrative services is void and it was created in error contrary to NRS 332.039. And we are going to have, oh, go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say Jason Woodbury's here to talk about this one, so.
Thank you. Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Jason Woodbury, Carson City District Attorney, and kind of want to walk you through the issue that's addressed in this agenda item and entertain any questions that you have. As you will recall, at the October meeting, this board approved an independent contractor agreement with NV Consulting LLC. In general, a public contract, a contract with a public body, which of course includes a CTA, is required to go through some sort of competitive bidding process, either the submission of bids or a request for proposal process. There are exceptions to that, some limited exceptions under the law that allow you to engage into a contract without having to go through that process. One of those exceptions is what's called the professional services exception. If you are engaging someone to do a professional service for the board, you don't have to go through the competitive bidding process. In looking, well, at our first review, we believed that the contract with NV Consulting LLC would fit within that definition of a professional consulting or professional services contract, and therefore be exempted from the competitive bidding process. We took, unfortunately, after this board approved the contract and everything was done, we took a closer look at that, and we looked in particular at the language of a statute that defines professional services, and it is our opinion that a strict reading of that definition could exclude that type of contract, could so exclude us from the exemption of going through the competitive bidding process. So the appropriate thing to do was for us to bring that to your attention and go back and fix the process. There is nothing illegal, I want to assure everybody, about the subject matter of the contract, about the end result of the contract. It is merely a concern on the part of my office about the process that got us to that point. We think we need to go through that process, which in this case would be the request for proposal process. The technical direction that we would like to recommend to the board tonight is to advise staff to recognize the contract as void under the law. If it is an illegal contract, it means it, legally speaking, never existed, and we'd like to just recognize that as an illegal contract and move forward accordingly. In accordance with Nevada revised statutes for the competitive bidding request for proposal process.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Jason, for clarifying that for us. And just for the record, as when we went through this process, certainly was not our intent to go in a different direction. So I appreciate you finding that error on our part, correcting it, and that's always our goal and our intent to be transparent. And so any error that we find, we are certainly going to fix it, and we're going to do it the proper way, and that's what we're going to do. So.
I move to recognize that the independent contractor agreement 2017-1013 is void pursuant to law.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, and we will start the process of doing this the correct way and putting out an RFP and going through that process. So we are going to get hard work at that. Okay, for possible action, to approve the expenditure of $15,000 for the V&T Capital Projects Fund for track maintenance required by the V&T Railway. Joel.
For the record, Joel Dunn. Also for the record, I am not representing the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority tonight. I'm strictly speaking on behalf of the V&T Commission as the appointed representation for the board. Going down here, so on the October 26th meeting of the V&T Commission, it was brought to the attention of the commission that there was a little over $48,000 in repairs that were going to be required between now and the opening of the 2018 season. Narrowing that down to what needed to be done before Polar Express, which starts this Saturday, and I think Kyle will be going over that in the CTA report. But the repairs that were required to get through the beginning of the Polar Express for the V&T track. These are all track repairs that are either a result of weather, typical maintenance through a maintenance agreement. The issue that was brought forward was there was roughly $30,000 of the $48,000 that was going to be needed before the Polar Express for 2017 and the beginning of the 2018 season. The issue that was brought before the commission is there is no identified revenue source or line item for repairs in the V&T Commission budget. With that being said, I felt fairly confident that you as a board, representing you at that level, and also that Story County would step up and do what was needed to make sure that we could move forward, get the required repairs taken care of. I saw this opportunity as bringing it back to the board no differently than what we did 3 years ago with some improvements that were required on site for the Polar Express 2014 season. As you know, the Polar Express is the primary revenue generator, and in hopes of always bringing the V&T budget back into the black. Not having an opportunity yet to go through an operational assessment and not having an opportunity to start the audit process with Steele and Associates and also possibly another external audit for the V&T Commission, I'm not in a position to be able to go through the motion to move any funds around within the V&T Commission. That being said, I approached Story County, asked if they would match 50% of that $30,000 required to move forward. They agreed that they would, and they had the funding for that, and that I would come to you as a board and ask to match the second $15,000. So tonight, I'm asking for $30,000 out of the V&T Commission funding for projects. In that account right now, the carryover is projected at $570,670. The secondary fund is a carryover of $150,000. There's certainly the money there to do this. This will, once again, be $30,000 out of the proposed $48,080 that's attached. And I believe that they are moving forward as quickly as they can with the opening of Polar Express this Saturday. So if there's any questions.
Yeah, so this capital project fund, this is the same fund we used when we did you mentioned this, the electrical, was that the one you were talking about 3 years ago?
Correct. We did
So that fund
$70,000.
is dedicated just for these type of capital projects, right?
Yeah.
And Joel, are you confident that they'll have the repairs done by Saturday?
I am. In fact, I went up today, went to the North Pole, and got a chance to see what was happening at the North Pole, and they're ahead of schedule. I can say that Tom Gray has stepped up because he is under contract, not necessarily for the installation of the North Pole, but he does facilitate with Ken Dorr a lot of the track maintenance. And Ken Dorr was on it immediately. Michael Rowe, legal counsel, worked through all of the requirements we as a new commission were looking at, which was making sure everybody had their insurances in place, and all of that has been taken care of. So yeah, we'll be able to move forward. We've got the media dates set up for this Saturday. They are starting a week earlier than what they've historically done, but we'll also be able to shoot for that date of opening for all of the rest of the improvements up on the track. In fact, when I was there, they were taking crews up to do some of the tunnel repairs. Yeah.
Just one other question. Do you know where we are with the audit?
Yeah, so what I'm currently doing is I'm working with both Nancy Paulson with the City of Carson City and Hugh Gallagher as staff, and putting together, the first step is just some procedures and policies when it comes to the financials and financial reporting to put in place before we get too far into the Polar Express season. I do need to get into the start of the Polar Express. There's already a 3-year contract with Steele & Associates for an audit. It's a spot audit. I've gone through the numbers, and their secondary audit was strictly looking at the funds that have been set aside by Story County and not sent to the commission. I have no concerns with that. I've also met with Department of Taxation, both Hugh Gallagher through a conference call and I on site with taxation, and I'm comfortable moving forward with getting into the Polar Express. I am going to assume that both staff is going to look at wanting to request an external audit, more of a line item audit, which I think would be referred to as a forensic audit. So, and I think that will happen just based on the transition of the commission, and I'm sure that will ease the minds of the commission. Perfect.
Joel, I have a question. So the total is $48,080. $15,000 is going to come from the V&T Capital Projects Fund, $15,000 from Story County. Where's the other $18,000 coming from?
So my intent is to, within the current budget, once I do the operational assessment, I've already identified, although not presented to the commission, some possibilities of some operational savings that we can look at. And we're going to have to, once again, rebuild this budget going into next year. I'll rebuild that budget through that assessment and hopefully have the dedicated funds set aside through the operations of the V&T rather than from the secondary funding sources. Correct. Yeah, I'm 30 days in. Yeah, I think in good faith, the partnership that we've created with Story County in this process, I think this is certainly the right way. And my suggestion to you would be to fund the 50%.
Who's doing it?
I move to authorize the payment of $15,000 from the V&T Capital Projects Fund to fund 50% of the $30,000 cost associated with track maintenance and repairs.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. For discussion and possible action to accept, in addition to the cooperative agreement between the City of Carson City and the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority for administrative services and facility use and management to be funded by 1% of the total 11% transient lodging tax rate, approximately $187,000 in fiscal year 2017, approved by the Carson City Board of Supervisors.
So this was the cooperative agreement that you guys had agreed to a while ago, and the city had taken it to their board, and the only change that they had made was the addition of all contractual obligations for scheduled events shall survive any termination. They added that to the top of page 8, paragraph 2, so that's the only change that they made when they approved it.
Can you clarify what that means? I'm a little slow tonight. Okay, Karen, go ahead. Karen.
There was discussion about the fact that I can't remember whether it was 30 days or 60 days termination timeframe, and if a contract were terminated, and you might have contracts in play prior to that, and so they wanted to make sure that, say, for instance, an event or whatever was contracted to happen, that contract would still be honored, even though that, the agreement might terminate, so. That was the thinking. And we just wanted to make it make it perfectly clear.
Okay.
I don't know if Iris wants to add
No,
anything.
that's absolutely right.
Yeah,
So,
so.
thank you.
Just want to clarify. And the 1%, that is what we've always done, right? There's no change in that particular rate.
Yeah, the only change is that one that's on page 8 that's highlighted there.
I move to accept the addition of the CTA City of Carson City interlocal agreement to the top of page 8, paragraph 2, last sentence. All contractual obligations for scheduled events shall survive any termination as approved by the Carson City Board of Supervisors.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Sorry.
One question for
Yeah.
Chris. Chris, since we are almost a year into this new agreement, are we going to have a separate audit for that on, 187,000 is going towards the culture aspect? Are we going to have a separate income and expenses, or is all bundled together within ours?
No, this is for the agreement with the city, the interlocal agreement. So that's for the IT services, the DA, the HR services, stuff like that.
But Jesse brings up a good point. Are we going to have a separate line item just so that we can kind of track, so we, as a tourism authority?
So are we, or less work for you guys, or, making it transparent?
Your microphone.
So, will we get something in, because I'm a numbers guy. So I want to see.
Not know that.
So you're asking, you want to find out what this 1% that we have with the interlocal agreement with the city is providing for us?
That and track the expenses, I think, so we can see a breakout.
I can look into that and find out if we can do something like that. I don't think we had it in the plans. We hadn't done it in the past. Well, we've had it for a few years now, but we just increased it to 1%. So, but I will check with finance and see if that's something we can give you guys some kind of breakout on it.
Thank you.
Because we can break out the services it provides, and then I guess what we're asking for is the services it provides, and then a number next to that to say, well, this is how much you spend in this expense, this service, that service. And
I will check with finance and see if we can work something out for that.
okay, non-action items. You're up, Chris.
Okay, so on the non-action items, the transient occupancy report, I do not have. One of our top 13 properties was not able to get their report to me on time, so it wouldn't really do you guys a lot of good for me to report on the information without one of the top 13 properties. The next one up we have is the strategic plan update, and Joel's going to kind of give you a little rundown on that.
So once again, Joel Dunn, not representing the CTA, but talking historically on the strategic plan. So the strategic plan will move forward upon an execution of a contract in December. So December 18th, this is the strategic plan. It's a 5-year plan looking at execution and implementation beginning in January of 2018. So I would plan on seeing a strategic plan review for approval back at that December 18th at a later agenda item, whether that's probably coming from Chris.
And Joel, that's comprised from the meetings that we had, the group meetings, everything, so that will be the kind of the synthesis of all of that.
Correct. In fact, it's in final form from every one of the community workshops, the multiple SWOT analysis, everything all tabulated into one 5-year strategic plan with the addition of an implementation plan to follow, I think, 3 months later in March. Okay. I'll go ahead and just, once again, not representing the CTA, but based on the grant update, go over the grants that have been applied for in this current granting period. The grant award will be December 4th. That's the Travel Nevada's commission meeting that'll be down in Las Vegas that leads into the Governor's Conference on Tourism. So if you're going through, you can see the first grants are listed. There's several grants all the way through the Ghost Walk video. The second round of applications is about halfway through that. You can see that we've got an application for marketing for the NEA Big Read grant that Mark was successful in getting. There's also Phase 2 for the single-track adventure along Highway 50. And once again, I think Kyle can probably break that out a little bit more for you in his report. The Visitor's Guide reprint, with the immediate success we've had in our first 2 editions of the reformatted Visitor's Guide, we wanted to make sure that we continued in that direction, so applied for a third grant for the Visitor's Guide reprint. Also a change to the social media tourism symposium. In the past, we've applied for a grant, and in all of the grants we've applied for, we've been very successful with the exception of the symposium. We've done a couple of different symposiums internal and had the outlying areas, the rural communities, come into Carson City, and Kyle's had anywhere from 30 to 40 participants in those tourism symposiums. The issue is some of those rural communities that we're currently starting to work with in the Highway 50 adventure, and also some of those that we've worked with down as far as Caliente, they're just not in a position to send as many people as they would need to make an impact in their community to a symposium located in Carson City. So the grant application this year, which I think was received well by Travel Nevada, is changing that up to where we hit the road. We go now to those gateway communities along those rural routes coming into Carson City. We work with them on developing their social media presence within their own communities, which in turn turns into the marketing efforts that we're trying to get from that effort. So I think that'll once again be successful. We always put in for the Nevada Magazine advertisement. This is typically tied to their visitor's guide that they send out yearly, and 1 to 2 special editions. Last year they did an edition on mountain biking, and it certainly made sense for Carson City to have an advertisement in the Nevada Magazine edition. And once again, going back to the Sea Otter Classic. The Sea Otter Classic was a gathering of 70,000 plus participants, all geared towards bike enthusiasts, everything from road bikes to mountain bikes to circle track. We found that it was certainly worth our effort last year. We partnered with Epic Rides and had a booth in a fantastic location, and they've committed to allowing us to have that same location once again at Sea Otter. And with Interbike now locating in northern Nevada, it's going to reduce our costs to have a presence during Interbike and allow us to continue to be at the Sea Otter Classic. A new one this year is the addition of the 24 Hours in Old Pueblo. This is one of the Epic Rides events that's been going on for a decade and a half. It is has an amazing attendance. A lot of the industry is present during the 24 Hours of Pueblo. There's not a lot of destinations, and we would be one of the few destinations. They're marketing not only our Carson City off-road, but obviously marketing our trail systems. So that we put in for a grant that would allow us to attend the 24 Hours of Pueblo. And once again, not in the series of Epic Rides, but put on by Epic Rides. So those are the new grants that we've put in for the current cycle. And I have to tell you, I'm fairly confident with every one of them. I think they're solid grants, and I would not be surprised if we at least received partial funding for all, if not all full funding. Okay.
So Joel, on the Reimagined Space project, so you're applying for additional funds to make that happen, in addition to what the redevelopment partnered with?
Yeah, so actually that, we put in for that grant in the first cycle, and that is in addition to the marketing efforts that we're doing as part of the CTA. Knowing that we dedicated $10,000 for the Reimagined Space, I asked Travel Nevada to partner with that, and we did receive that grant. So we did receive a $5,000, so we've got an additional $10,000 in the Reimagined Space, and I know that Mark, as he moves through getting all of the policies and procedures finalized, we're ready to run with the Reimagined Space. So certainly more money to spend on the marketing effort, which is really the component of getting people in. Okay.
On the social media tourism symposium, so I know, Kyle, in the past you've done it here and you've had like different local experts come in. So if you're taking it on the road, what does that look like as far as who you're bringing with you, or are you doing, solo tripping it?
Yeah, no, so in the past we've had 8 different experts speak over 2 days. That's a pretty large team to assemble to try to take on a road trip. So at this point, really, we're looking to scale down to a group of people that would fit in the car, would have the time and the ability to go on that, but take a much smaller, smaller, more, mobile approach to it. So those details haven't been completely spelled out yet, but are you throwing your hat in the ring for a road trip?
Maybe. Depends when you're doing it. But I always enjoyed speaking at those in the past. So
yeah, absolutely.
I was just curious how that works if you're taking it on the road.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be the 2-day 8-speaker demonstration that we've had in the past, but it'll still be impactful, and we'll still cover probably the same array of topics. But most speakers probably have to double down if they're going to be on it. So we'll talk further. All right, so Kyle Horvath, Marketing Manager for the Culture and Tourism Authority. It's kind of hard to tell which month is crazier in the office, if it's June or October. Both of them are pretty insane, but this last month, everybody was working at a frenzy to make sure that the entire Nevada Day weekend went off without a hitch. I think we all kind of stared our breaking points in the face a couple times, but nobody snapped. And looking back on it, everything was a really, really big success with everything that just the events, how they went off, the attendance, the impact of it all. So even though it was a crazy month with irons and a lot of different fires, everything worked out all good. So it's nice to be able to look back on a month and be able to say that. So this is just kind of a review of some of the things that went down in October, and then a quick look at what's happening in November and early winter. I apologize for the amount of text in the beginning, but I promise there's going to be videos at the end to wake you back up. So on social media, we gained 76 new followers on Facebook. Again, that's a net gain. Like we talked about in one of the last presentations, people come, people go with events, but this is actually one of our bigger gains for one of the months. We reached 27% more people than last month organically. We did do a couple ads this month, so we'll go over those. But 26,633 people reached, and 4,000 engagements. So that, again, is likes, comments, and shares. That was up 92% from the month before. So, obviously people were really excited about Nevada Day and the events around it, so this is no surprise. We uploaded a few videos to our banner over the course of the last month. It was the Nevada Day cover video and the train video. We also did links to the other videos that we did, but Facebook doesn't track the YouTube links. So just the views on Facebook alone, 2,500, and that was up much more than the month before, where we only showed one video on the banner on Facebook. For the YouTube videos, though, we had almost 900 minutes of viewing this last month. So that would be the food and beverage video, the entertainment and nightlife, and the Ride Carson City videos and stuff like that. So it's pretty good considering our videos are about 30 seconds to a minute long, that you're going to get 900 minutes out of viewing. Twitter was 44 new followers, over 8,000 impressions a week. So that stays in line with what we were doing over the course of the last year. And then on Instagram, we're quickly approaching 2,000 followers. So I'm hoping next month when I come in, I can say that we've reached that benchmark. For social promotions, these are paid advertisings. The two at the bottom, we didn't do paid advertisings, but these were also included in the marketing that we did for some of the additional events that were going on. So that would be multiple press releases, design work, printing, photography, video production, things like that. So the paid ones, there was 2 Capital Collage promotions. Passport to Downtown was promoted regionally. We boosted the train video once that went back out, and that was kind of to try to get even though it wasn't Polar Express specific, it was specific to get people thinking about trains and Polar Express for the season. And then we did an ad in Spanish that was translated for us promoting Nevada Day, which was really cool. It was our first Spanish ad that we did to Spanish-speaking citizens in northern Nevada. We also did some Spanish ads for Dia de los Muertos, which I attended on Saturday, and it was awesome. They said that there was about 800 people that showed up that day. I went with my kids. The craft rooms were packed. Where the dancing was packed. The ofrendas looked awesome. It was just a really, really cool event to see it go off with that much success, considering how much effort was put in between the Latino cohort and the museum and Mark. It worked out really well. And then, of course, the La KLB powwow, which we're going to be using some of that content in our new visitor's guide. And they moved up to the new location in the MAC, and that as well was a success. I believe everybody loved that location and are looking forward to doing it again next year and years to follow. So those were some of the events that we partnered with and different things that we did social promotions for. We did do 3 Silver State updates. So on October 7th, we did Nevada Day. On the 21st, we went to Western Nevada College and interviewed a student, their first time on camera for Dia de los Muertos. And the last one that we did just recently was Inside the Mind of Da Vinci with Michelle Riley. The website was active in the last month, 14,000 unique users over the last month, 28,000 page views. What you see below that is kind of the order of popularity. So the calendar listing for Nevada Day was #1 over the homepage, which is unbelievable. But the thing is we were directing people specifically to that in all of our promotions, so it's not a surprise. The Things to Do page, Nevada Day featured listing, so obviously Nevada Day was hot, the calendar, and then Capital Collage on the calendar. Again, there was a ton of promotion going out around that was directing it back to that in the ticket module. Since Nevada Day is done, the dining has moved up to just behind Things to Do and Polar Express, as well as moved into the top 5. So just recently redesigned the dining page to host the new food and beverage video that we just did. So that looks good for all the activity that's on there. The bounce rate was up. The month before we had talked about how the bounce rate was dropping, but this month it was up. And the only thing I could figure is because we were directing people specifically to calendar events and to specific posts, they got the information they needed, and then they jumped off. They didn't dive deeper into the website. So we'll work on getting that bounce rate back down. Usually with the videos that we put up and the blog posts that we do, gets people to spend a little bit more time on the website. You can see the top 5 states from where activity is hitting from. Illinois coming in 5th, and I feel like Chicagoland is an area we need to focus on, especially in the wintertime, because Midwest winters are way harsh and those people are looking to get out. So we'll look a little bit more into Chicago. And then working with IT right now, our site speed registered as moderately slow. So I had James Williams at IT look at that. We got the pictures all compressed, but because there's so many redirects and tracking modules on the website, that's currently what's slowing it down now. So we're working on just trying to speed that up. It's not ridiculously slow, but it definitely could be a lot faster. So we are working with IT for that one. All right, so here's some of the projects that are coming. But first I want to show you our new video, our new shopping video that just got completed just in time because Expedia just named Carson City as one of the hot holiday shopping communities across the country. We didn't submit anything. We didn't ask for this. This was a total surprise, which was awesome. But how they came up with that was monitoring social media and seeing how much buzz was going on in all of these communities around holiday shopping. So it was everything from the high school holiday fair, which is coming up, to the DBA and all their events, to Silver and Snowflakes, to the holiday shopping stuff we've put out in the past. They just followed the shop, small shop, local hashtags, and Carson City was one of the most active. So really, really cool, and we're happy to put this video. Just kidding. Bass just kicked in right there. You can't tell, but so we were trying to get some shots of some new shops that we haven't showcased in the past. We wanted to kind of show that there's stuff for men and women in Carson City, where some of our past videos have been very gift shop and jewelry oriented.
Shop small, shop local, shop Carson City.
So that is going to be going out not just on social, but on Mountain Resort TV Tahoe, and working on getting that out into some more broadcasts. So we try to keep it, it's right on the long end of what TV's like, or television likes for their commercials, but that's essentially what the plan is for that one. We are working on the next edition of the Visitor's Guide. So again, we've got, I think 6 to 8 great new stories that are going to be told. Again, those stories will then go onto the website and out in the newsletter and things like that. Update on the Highway 50 single track adventure. We finished our second video, so right now we've got the Gateway videos. I believe I've showed the Ely video that we completed a while back. The Carson City one, because it's ours, we were definitely a lot more picky about it. So a little bit more time, but I'd have to say, James with Drop Media was really, really patient with all the requests, and I'm happy with kind of how it's turned out right now. So this is the second video for the Highway 50.
So we're here in downtown Carson City, Sunday morning. Carson City is an amazing town. People are very welcoming. It's a really rounded community. It's the capital of Nevada, and it's got a beautiful downtown. There's good restaurants and bars, so it's really a great backdrop for the Epic Rides Off-Road Series event here.
Muscle Powered is the trail organization that we have here, and there's a pretty good group of people that are doing a lot of really hard work and getting new trails put in, doing maintenance on the existing trails. We've got a couple proposals in to actually expand the current trail system.
Like just the surrounding area here, that you got a little bit of everything. You can have super desert, you can have super forest, or you can have like pretty meadows, so there's kind of a variety. I think it's important to help build trails. I see a lot of people who come down, then I see them later on and they're helping us build trails, and I think that's cool because they're giving back to their community.
We have energy for all the awesome music that's going to be playing later today. So we are choosing party over Sufferfest.
All right. So yeah, so when phase 2 goes into it, the landing page for the website will be up. We've already talked with BLM out in Austin about what's available to be promoted now versus in the future, and so we've got a couple things for Austin that we can do. And of course, we were out in Eureka a couple months ago, helping out with that. So you'll see the next 2 videos come into play, but you'll actually see a lot more of the web presence of those and the maps and kind of over the winter. That's kind of the content we're going to be getting, because you're not going to be able to film with snow on the ground. So that's the update on that. The interactive mapping, we are currently filling out the Excel spreadsheet with all the points of interest, restaurants, parks, trails, things like that. So going through the tedious part of the work about getting all the locations on there. But we've had multiple meetings with the city, and the map base looks awesome. So visually it's appealing, which is always kind of was the first thing we had problems with some of the other companies that we tried to work with, but this looks really good. And it's going to be able to function the way we need it to function. So we're still shooting for, what do we say, an end of the year to try to get the points of interest up, and then probably by like early winter to have all the detail work figured out and things like that. So moving forward, a couple events that are coming up, December 4th and 5th, the Governor's Global Tourism Summit at the Flamingo Hotel in Vegas. This is an annual conference that Travel Nevada puts on, but the highlight of it is the marketplace, where you go in and they've got 50 different media companies and then about 70 different tour operators that come in, and you get 7 minutes kind of in a speed dating format to make your elevator pitch. And it's an exciting energy in the room, I don't know, for me at least, to go around and hustle like that. So that's the part I look forward to the most. There's some good talks there and everything like that, but the networking and that marketing speed dating is where it's at. And then on January 9th through 14th, Reno is hosting the 2018 Cyclocross Nationals. We're talking about 5,000 racers, 7,000 to 8,000 people in attendance for this from around the country. This is a USA cycling event, so you're bringing the best, amateurs all the way up to pros. The same pros that are racing in the Carson Off-Road are racing in cyclocross. And what it is it's held in a park on rigid frame road bikes, but with nubbier mountain bike tires on them, and they run these people through obstacle courses, over through mud pits, upstairs, and through the sand pits, of which we are a sponsor. So Visit Carson City will be sponsoring the sand pit. We're going to be able to spray paint our logo in the sand pit, and we've got 60 feet of banner length in the sand pit. This is like the most exciting spot in the entire cyclocross race, because people have to dismount and charge and run up this area. In addition, we're going to have a booth in the party zone, which is essentially where the music is, the beer garden is, and all the main sponsor booths where everybody's hanging out. The Reach Local that Joel had talked about in the budget, that is for geofence retargeting in that area over that weekend. So what's going to happen is that entire event for the whole week is going to be geofenced. Anybody who comes in there is going to get, when they pull up their phone, it's going to be like, hey, here, ad for Visit Carson City, go see us at the booth. We're going to have hot chocolate, we're going to have cowbells, we're just pretty much going to have fun. And the main thing is, yes, to promote our trails, but to let people know that maybe they might want to relocate here. We're building housing. This is a great place to move your business. This is a great place to relocate your family, and start really advocating for, even more of a viewpoint on Carson City as a cycling friendly community, not just mountain biking, but road biking and cyclocross. This has even spawned talks with the local cyclocross series about bringing some events down to Carson City in the wintertime. And it's great because it is in the wintertime when there's not a whole lot of outdoor activities going on. I mean, it is pure suffering on bikes, and people eat it up and they love it. So that is all I have. Is there any questions? All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks, Kyle. Great work, thank you.
Yep. Almost. There we go.
Good evening. You ready for a Cultural Commission update? Okay. It's been a busy month, just to echo what Kyle said. I think this the theme for this month, for me at least, has been exposure and maybe contrast and comparison. I want to give you the artistic bike rack update. Right now, as you know, I'm searching for a welder who's licensed, bonded, and insured as per city requirements to fabricate some of the designs that we have in right now. The next move on this will probably be installing the dedicated bronze plaques. Some sponsors had opted to create a dedicated bronze plaque to pre-existing muscle-powered bike racks. And look what I found recently on my travels. Some very similar to what we have here. Da Vinci update. As you know, if you've been outside, you've seen what we have gracing our front lawn. And I want to carry everyone here in the room through the processes of doing this, because everyone in this room is responsible for that being here, and as such, we're ambassadors for that. So I kind of want to educate us so that when we're asked, at a dinner table, or someone rings our doorbell and says, how did this get here, and what's the story behind it, we have a little information to hand them. So as you know, there was a lot of removal of sod as per a public art meeting we had. In lieu of a concrete pad, we had to add extra fill and gravel and have that pounded down. These are some images of the install. And that's about where we left it, at least last time I saw it. As you see now, it has about a 3-foot gravel lane around the perimeter. The sod's been refilled. The next step there, really, getting installed is just the first step. The work really begins now on advertising this and promoting it, on education and building longevity around it. I think this is just really the welcome mat, and now we have to create events and awareness for it. Recently attended the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies in Portland, Oregon, and this was an event I attended with Tony Manfredi, the new ED for the Nevada Arts Council. This was a meeting of all state agency board members from across the United States. And if you wonder what we do at these meetings, we look and see how we're made. And as you see here, Nevada and South Dakota, Wisconsin, boy, this is testing my map skills, Kentucky and Louisiana are all arts councils under the belt of tourism. Other states, their arts councils are under economic development or Department of the State even. And we review what our audiences are comprised of. But there's one thing I want to show you, and the reason I bring this up is because eyes are upon us. And you might wonder, well, what does our municipality have to do with Mark attending a state agency function? And this is one of the reasons. This is Jane Chu, the chair of Nevada.
Festival features a month of 500 events that involve hundreds of organizations and artists and musicians, and they're set in 100 different locations all throughout Reno. So this is another example of great creative placemaking in Peterborough, New Hampshire.
So that's Jane Chu, the chair of the National Endowment of the Arts, and she was going state by state and picking out a notable encounter that she had in her travels just the past year. And so Joel and we met her recently, and I want us to be the next thing that she mentions at these state, national art conferences. That's the direction I'm headed to, and that's where I want all of us to go together. I attended a Reno Tahoe marketing luncheon because I realized that my colleague in Reno, Alexis Hill, was doing a presentation. And I think this is a good example of how arts can inform marketing and marketing can inform arts. And here she did a fantastic job of putting the word out to the local marketing agencies about the attraction of what arts can be. And here they have a bicentennial park sculpture garden that was funded totally by the Rotary Group. So Carson City Rotary, I got my eyes on you. Here they have a program much similar to what Joel and I put together through Reimagine Space, Art Fighting Blight. This is an app to find artwork, and this is a beautiful visual of how art applicants, either individuals or organizations, can easily access what the city has to offer. And I'd like for Carson to adopt something like this, at least for our RAC program going forward. If I was to ask you who these 5 individuals were, would you guess that these are the founders of Burning Man? -1. And so these were the guests at the Nevada Museum of Art in Reno for an Arts and Environment Conference. And of course, this is leading up to our own Nevada Day Parade, which we had a couple of these superstars in attendance at our events. So getting back to Michelle's piece out there, who goes to Burning Man? So the median age is someone between 30 and 34. I'm going to skip around here. 3/4 of them, almost 3/4, have a bachelor's degree or above. So when people ask you, oh, what, Burning Man sculpture, people might have a preconceived notion. Here are some stats, some hard stats of who actually attends these. These are informed, educated, well-earning people. Of course, Capitol Collage was the 27th. This was at the Boys and Girls Club, trying to create some new tradition here in Carson City. And here are a couple photographs taken from that event. That's the Stewart Indian Powwow Princess from Duckwater. We got away with a lot in that space. This is some piñatas by Justin Favela, Hispanic artist in Las Vegas. There were prizes in this piñatas. You break open the piñata, and inside is a prize, and you get a print from one of our Great Basin Native artists that showed at our Visitors Bureau. And so all of these artworks that were commissioned for this event, my goal is to absorb them into the city's art collection and have all these put together as sort of a documentary piece comprised of about 5 or 6 pieces, including that busted up piñata. If anyone saw this float in the actual parade, this is the Big Greed grant that we won. As you recall, it's been 8 years since any organization has won this literary grant. We are the only organization who has won it this year. And this is a collaboration I put together between our local library and our state museum. And this was, this rattlesnake, was built by Kathy Rush, employee at the local library. And who knew we had this talent? I mean, she gave me Excel sheets to pick up stuff at Home Depot, and I had no idea it could be turned into this. So I think it's pretty cool. Also during the parade, we had the Arts and Culture Coalition with their fantastic umbrellas. This was our one of the parade vehicles. Michael being Grand Marshal, being interviewed by NBC, and the governor hopping aboard our vehicle, and that's Michelle Riley in the center. And of course, after the parade, Cafe Addel's graciously hosted a lunch for all the parade officials. So thank you for that. Joel and I recently attended a conference in Las Vegas about art and placemaking and how a lot of development going forth really needs to incorporate art in the introductory stages, not as an after effect. Of course, Las Vegas has a great ability to turn a mirror on itself. So the art tour actually led us into the restrooms of a hotel, and that's the Berlin Wall. That's a portion of the Berlin Wall that this art collector had installed there. While I was there, I was able to officiate a Day of the Dead competition with my colleague, Joe O'Neill, the vice chair of the Nevada Arts Council. I wasn't here in attendance for this one here in Carson City, but I did do my work, southern part of the state. And then just wrapping up here, just returned from Honolulu for the Future History of Public Art. This was a lot about placemaking, the responsibility of us as arts administrators to bring the community in on these developing stages. And, do we I mean, people were mentioning, should we make less art but at a higher quality? And so it was a lot of good connections, a lot of great conversations there at their state museum. And then finally, I pulled this off the web today. This is from the Facebook of Carson Now, and there's 361 responses to this, several shares, several comments, you know, stirring dialogue back and forth on both sides. I think is fantastic. This was taken, a screenshot from Carson Now's page, 690 likes. I was able to reach out to planmygetaway.com. They put up our info for our events that weekend. My thanks to Courtney Bloomer for helping us get the word out for Capital Collage and Arts for Nevada. And I threw this up here because, you know, I invited all of our elected officials throughout the state that I met in Washington, D.C. Earlier this year. And although Congressman Kuhn couldn't attend, I did appreciate his letter in support of what we do here. So that just kind of gives you the, you know, an idea of the exposure. I mean, I think by reaching out, we increase our footprint to create an identity which is going to attract people. So that was my month. Are there any questions?
Both of you guys had really good months. Good work.
And you still have hair.
I have a question. These are like really awesome photos, and the photos from the Capitol Collage and everything. Are those things that we can utilize through our social channels to kind of push them out and show some of the cool things that we have here, or cool? Maybe our website too?
Yeah, I actually, if you look, I've been switching the pictures out on the website, starting as early as last week. So we've got some new images actually from the Capitol Collage on the home banner now. But yeah, usually about this time of year, I go and switch out everything so it's seasonal and fresh and everything. So yeah, you'll be seeing those.
And I just wanted to mention that we're getting folks from outside the area to come see the Mind of Da Vinci, so, and the remarks are very positive, so that's cool at the beginning.
So the next we have is the future agenda items. We'll bring in back the final RFP and contract for the consulting services, but do you guys have any other agenda items you want?
Nope. Anybody? All right.
Nope. Okay.
So upcoming meetings,
Yeah, so we have upcoming meetings. The next Cultural Commission meeting is 11/21. And then we're just double checking on the December meeting.
we'd like to do it, I think we talked about December
Moving it?
18th. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll need to get that taken care of, so I'll get that on.
Is everyone available on the 18th? Is that a good day?
Yeah, I'm over there. 19th is a Wednesday? Oh, Tuesday. Tuesday, okay.
December 18th?
December 18th. Any issues for that for anybody?
I'll just be racing here. I'm coming from my granddaughter's music concert, so.
So
But I'll be
which-
here. I'll be.
I may have a conflict, but I'll let you know as I get there.
Okay. Does that work for you, Lou? No?
On December 18th, there is a joint meeting, Parks Rec, from 5:30. I have it listed till 8:30 right now, on December 18th.
5:30 in here?
Yeah, do you think we'll be done by then?
Who's leading the meeting? Is Chris doing it? We'll be done.
4:45.
You'll be done. Yeah, we'll be done. Yep, we'll be done. We'll be- Okay, thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody. Okay, seeing no public comment, board comments or announcements or requests for information from anybody? All right. Next up, for possible action to adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Do you want